Curiosity Stream is the world's only streaming service dedicated to documentaries, featuring tons of amazing titles you won't find on any other streaming platforms. Get Curiosity Stream for 25% off, which is just $15 a year, by clicking the link right underneath this video. So we've been very concerned for months now about a possible sequel to the January 6th Trump riots. And really, ever since the organizers started planning this event for Washington, D.C. on September 18th, we've been worried about whether there would be another violent confrontation, another insurrectious coup attempt, or whatever else the case may be. Now, September 18th, 2021, you might notice if you look at the calendar, that date is now in the past. This was this past Saturday. And the reason for the fears of violence was that as much as the point of the rally could be understood, and we'll get to how it sort of wasn't even clear what the point of the rally was, as much as we could understand the point of this rally, it was to support what the rally goers believe is unfair treatment of the alleged Trump rioters from January 6th. If there was any theme, and it was so disjointed, if there was any theme at the Saturday event, it was that the September 18th protesters feel that those accused of rioting on January 6th are being held illegally, without good reason, in poor jail conditions, not being given good food or provided bail. Suddenly, the Trumpists care about prison reform, hilariously. But if you are rallying in support of rioters, it's totally plausible that you would become violent as well. Fortunately, Washington, D.C. was far better prepared. Fortunately, it did not become violent. That's good. I know that there were many on the right saying, you liberals want it to be violent. No, I wanted it not to be violent. We even had a coupon code during our live stream Saturday, which was, please no riot. We did not want it to be violent, and it was not. But hilariously, it did become a complete and total humiliation. A few dozen people showed up to the event. There were more media people than actual protesters. The protester attendance was in the dozens, whereas the media presence was in the hundreds. Now, later we'll be talking about whether the lack of turnout combined with last week's disastrous California gubernatorial recall results are sort of signaling a waning impact or influence of Trumpism in the Republican Party. I'll get to that. Let's first focus on the rally itself. Spectrum News congressional reporter Taylor Popolars posted some observations along with a clip and noticed several hundred press, hundreds of police, and a few dozen actual rally attendees, couple dozen counter protesters. Let's get into some of the rally nonsense. Our friend Lauren Windsor was right there. She filmed a ton of this. Here is the organizer, Matt Brainerd, explaining, I guess, the point of the rally, which is really hard to understand.
We already have poll numbers that show essentially half of the public believes that the government is holding political prisoners. That came from Rasmussen. And it's not partisan.
By the way, Rasmussen, disastrous pollster, and they essentially believe, I mean, this is what we call weasel language.
35% of Democrats agree with that. In fact, yesterday, I had a wonderful interview, which is, you can see the full live stream because I don't chop it up, but the full live stream up with my good new friend from MSNBC, Miss Yasmin. And after the interview, a guy who'd watched the whole thing, who I'd never recognized before, came up and started to be rather critical of the line of questioning, saying that it was completely misrepresenting what this rally was about, that they can't hate every person hitting a police officer with a fire extinguisher or violence like that, or destroying doors or other property, with the people who walked in a few hours later not knowing what they're doing and are now domestic terrorists. They can't be painted.
As you can see, it's really not clear what this whole thing is about.
With the same broad brush. And what was interesting to me is he said, look, I'm a liberal Democrat. This isn't about President Trump or Biden or your political party. This is about human rights, and this is about civil rights. And I'm going to bring somebody up to say the pledge who has been persistent.
Okay. So then there were prayers, and there was a pledge, and there was the reading of letters. It's not really clear what the whole point of it was, other than to say the alleged rioters from January 6th are being not treated well. Now, hilariously, Lauren Windsor, who filmed a lot of this stuff, noticed that most of the security surrounding Matt Brainerd were black men. She asked him about it afterwards, and he really did not like this line of questioning.
Why do you have a predominantly black security force?
I have no idea. I didn't hire them.
No?
What a dumb question.
Do you have any response to former President Trump calling this
Nope.
a setup?
I have no response to that.
Okay, so he found that to be a dumb question. Then, and this is where it starts to get into sort of outer space. They started doing a say her name thing with Ashley Babbitt. Now, remember, Ashley Babbitt was a trespassing criminal aggressor on January 6th. Tragically, she was killed by an officer. An investigation has been done. The officer was cleared. In any other situation, if this had been an Antifa protest on January 6th or BLM or whatever, these right wingers would be saying, folks, support back the blue. The officer was cleared. Now they're essentially martyring Ashley Babbitt. Look at this.
Roseanne Boylans. Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylans. Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan. Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan. Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan. Thank you.
You know, they say don't glorify criminals. They said George Floyd shouldn't be a hero, all this stuff. By their own standards, the officer was investigated and cleared. Ashley Babbitt was tragically killed by police, but she was there trespassing and in violation of the law and believed to have been engaged in the rioting. And they would be saying if it were anybody, if the cause of the protest was anything other than try to steal the election for Trump, they would be saying the officer behaved beautifully. So this is all wacky. Now, then it really got nuts. In this next clip, an angry, apparently QAnon woman starts to get really angry with Lauren for covering the event.
Why is it that
Why are you so upset? Why are you so upset?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
I'm tired of everybody, the race card being thrown up all the time. We love everybody. We love everybody. Red, yellow, black, white, we're all the same. We're Americans. It's always been the melting pot of the world. You young people absolutely hate America. What in the world?
Why do I hate America?
It is a melting
Why
pot.
do I hate America?
I don't know. What kind of questions were you asking him over there?
I mean, I think it's a relevant question if you're saying that you're not a white supremacist rally, but then the majority of the security
You're
guards on the
sick.
stage are
You
African
are
American.
sick.
You don't think that that's a PR move?
You're sick.
You don't think that was deliberately done?
No, I don't.
No.
No, I don't.
Okay, so who hired the security force? What's the name of the security force? They shouldn't have any problem giving that answer.
That may be his best friends. You don't know. You're
why I asked.
assuming. You're
Don't you put
assuming.
your
Oh my
fucking
God.
finger in my face like that. Okay.
So now the woman is getting really up and look, she's so close to Lauren Windsor that she's off camera.
You gonna start something with me?
I don't care.
I will sue your ass so fast. We're surrounded by
I'm not
Capitol
gonna
Police.
hit you.
Okay, so that was pretty wacky. And then one last interesting, this was actually interesting. I love it when there's these conflicts between people who have sort of like an identity wrapped up in, for example, in this case, firefighters. This is super interesting. This is a different a reporter, Richard Hall. A firefighter in uniform comes over to talk to reporter Richard Hall and starts saying the Trump riots on January 6th were a false flag. It was staged, fake, whatever they mean by a false flag, that's what it was. And then another firefighter, not in uniform, overhears this and comes over and says, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Look at this.
January 6th, I mean, you saw the violence and, is it
So
offense appropriate?
history will prove me wrong that was a false flag. History will reveal that.
Hey, I'm a firefighter too, and this guy's talking pure bullshit. There is no question that what happened on January 6th is the work of people, supporters of Donald Trump,
Right.
who decided falsely and without any proof that the 2020 election, I will in a moment, in the 2020 election, that it was fake.
Were you there?
Hold on, big dog.
Were you there?
I was there.
Where?
I was
You were
there.
here on January 6th.
So let the man speak. The man makes a point. I'd love to hear you next.
My name is, by the way, brother, my name is Eric Lamar, Lamar, and I'm a retired firefighter. I would never occur to me to come down here wearing my Class A's.
You're retired?
And
You're entitled to do that.
as a retiree.
I'm saying that this, what you're seeing right here, folks, is part of the problem. And it's someone, and I almost weep to say this, that is from a highly respected fire department. This guy is a captain. And I have the utmost respect for my brothers and sisters at FDNY, and certainly for someone who not only is a captain, but as you can see, looks the part. And he's coming down here today, and he is spreading lies.
Yep, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. And that's, the use of the guy pointing out, I wouldn't come down here wearing my Class A's, but I think that's the equivalent of in the military, I think it would be like your dress uniform. I wouldn't be down here doing that either way. And then spreading lies under that guy is absolutely horrifying. So what's the good news? There was no violence. Barely anyone showed up. It's really the best possible outcome, which will get us into our next topic today, which is whether the influence of Trumpism is evaporating. There are two major parties in the United States in politics. There's Republicans and there's Democrats. That's the situation right now. Those are the two major parties. And for about 5 years now, basically since 2016, the Republican Party has become the party of Trump. Controlled by Trump, taken over by Trumpists, other flavors of Republicans increasingly pushed to the margins. Yeah, it's globally embarrassing for the U.S. Yeah, it's completely shameful, but it is the reality. The Republican Party has become mostly the party of Trump. In thinking about the future, we've been wondering, will the Republican Party continue to be the party of Trump, or are they going to abandon that? We're not really going to get our first major data point until November of 2022, when the midterm elections actually take place. We'll be able to see, do the Trumpian incumbents get reelected? Do the Trump-endorsed candidates win? That type of thing in November of 22. But short of those results, we just received in the last week two pretty important data points that could signal a declining influence of Trumpism. What are the two data points? Well, first of all, last week we had the California gubernatorial recall election. It was heavily pushed forward by pro-Trump Republicans in California. The primary alternative to the incumbent Governor Gavin Newsom was nothing short of a Trump clone in Larry Elder. And the Republicans got crushed, 64-36, just a massive defeat. This is basically the same margin as Joe Biden's 2020 win in California of 63-34. And in a recall, usually those calling for the recall are highly motivated to vote. And yet they still got crushed by the same margin that Biden defeated Trump in California in last year's election. Usually you would expect a tighter race in that case. In a sense, that was a mini referendum on Donald Trump. And it went absolutely terribly for the pro-Trump California Republicans. So that's data point number one from last week. Secondly, over the weekend, we had this completely failed pro-Trump rioter rally in Washington, D.C., and people like Congressman Ted Lieu and others have been saying the pathetic turnout shows the waning influence of Donald Trump. Now, alone, I don't think these two data points really tell us what we need to know about Trumpism in the Republican Party, but they're interesting data points regardless. Importantly, even if we believed that these were real, true, bona fide signs of Donald Trump's declining influence, it would not be a signal for us to just sit back. So in that sense, it's irrelevant. This is going to be a long process in the best of cases, and ultimately it's going to come down to the 2022 election. If Republicans lose seats somehow, and if Trumpists lose, it may be the end of the clown show. Locally, they might still do okay, but nationally, you could see in November of 22, the Republican Party, if they get crushed, they will probably go back to something other than Trumpism, something marginally less bad, still bad, but marginally less bad. And Trump may see those 2022 results as a sign that he should not run in 2024. Now, the alternative is Trumpists do well in 2022, or even if Trumpists don't do that well, but Republicans gain in the House, take the House, it might still encourage Trump to say, I think I'm going to go for it in 2024. So for now, even if Trump is losing influence, Trumpism is still very much alive. Most Republicans still repeat his talking points. They still fearmonger the way that he does. They still placate the it's rigged ideology and the type of people. Now, there's one other side to this. There were some Trumpists saying, don't go to the D.C. rally this weekend. It's a false flag. They're going to use it to entrap you. The FBI is actually setting it up. Now, in that sense, if that's what kept people away to the point where only a few dozen actually showed up, it may also not be the signal that we imagine it to be. But there are some cautious reasons to wonder, is the influence of Trumpism waning, as evidenced over the last 2 weeks, over the last week, by the pathetic turnout over the weekend at the Justice for J6 rally and the humiliating, disastrous defeat for Republicans in California. Let me know what you think. How valuable, how important are these data points and these signals? You can find me on Twitter at dpacman. One of our sponsors is CuriosityStream, the only subscription streaming service just for documentaries. My girlfriend and I have been using the CuriosityStream platform at home nonstop. I can tell you from personal experience, much better documentary selection than Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. On CuriosityStream, I'm always finding documentaries by the world's best filmmakers, stuff you can't find on other streaming services. Last month, they added a ton of awesome new titles to the library. I just finished watching Becoming Martian, about the future of the human species and its possible path through Mars. But there's documentaries on every topic imaginable: science, nature, history, politics. If you love documentaries the way I do, you are not going to find a better source of brand new, award-winning docs anywhere else. CuriosityStream is giving my audience 25% off, which means you can subscribe for just $15 a year. Not a big price tag for the hours and hours of enjoyment I know you will get from CuriosityStream. Just go to curiositystream.com/Pacman25. The link is underneath this video. Remember that our program is mostly funded by viewers and listeners like you who sign up at joinpacman.com. We do an extra show every day. If you like this show, even at all, I mean, come on. If you like it at all, you can get an extra show every single day by signing up at joinpacman.com. You can also use the coupon code BETTER21 to get a discount off of the membership of your choice. All right, let's talk about an incredible story that's both incredible for what it contains, but also because of some of the reaction that we've seen from some. The Pentagon has admitted to killing 10 civilians, including up to 7 children, in a Kabul drone strike last month. This particular drone strike was the center of much controversy because it tied in with the withdrawal from Afghanistan that Donald Trump initially said he wanted to do, wasn't able to do, and Joe Biden ultimately did. We now have video of a CENTCOM commander, General Kenneth McKenzie, saying, "We didn't get terrorists, we got civilians." The U.S. is considering reparation payments to surviving family members. The Pentagon originally said the strike killed 2 ISIS-K fighters believed to be involved in planning attacks against U.S. forces in Kabul. The drone strike came after a suicide bomb attack by ISIS-K that resulted in the deaths of 13 U.S. service members and dozens of Afghans near Kabul's airport. So we're going to look at video of General Kenneth McKenzie saying, "I apologize for this." And then there's a few different things that I want to talk about. But to go into it, to kind of frame this, the reason this particular drone strike is getting so much attention is the context in the withdrawal from Afghanistan as retaliation to the ISIS-K suicide bombing near the airport that left 13 service members and more civilians dead. Let's listen.
I am now convinced that as many as 10 civilians, including up to 7 children, were tragically killed in that strike. Moreover, we now assess that it is unlikely that the vehicle and those who died were associated with ISIS-K or were a direct threat to U.S. forces.
Okay, so far, killed civilians, didn't kill ISIS-K. Okay.
I offer my profound condolences to the family and friends of those who were killed. This strike was taken in the earnest belief that it would prevent an imminent threat to our forces and the evacuees at the airport. But it was a mistake, and I offer my sincere apology. As the combatant commander, I am fully responsible for this strike and this tragic outcome.
So it seems incongruous to be talking about a strike which was supposed to get ISIS-K, but got 10 civilians, including 7 children, and saying, "I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, we didn't get the terrorists. We got 10 civilians." And I get that. It's completely incongruous. It's like visually shocking. Am I really hearing this? Is this how they're talking about it? This happens all the time. This particular drone strike got more attention because of the circumstances surrounding it. We've been talking about the issue of drone strikes killing civilians for a decade. I mean, we started really talking about it in earnest under Barack Obama. The drone program under the Obama administration was one of the biggest foreign policy criticisms of the Obama administration. Cenk Uygur, our friend from the Young Turks, had a nice series of tweets about pointing to this outrage. It may or may not be real. The media outrage in response to this admission from the CENTCOM commander. But it's actually another data point of the media being against the Afghanistan withdrawal. Cenk explains it. Let's look at these tweets. Cenk wrote, quote, all the reporters who were outraged by Pentagon drone strike that killed civilians, are you guys not aware that we've been killing civilians with drone strikes for decades? How is this news to you that you are all of a sudden bothered by it? Because almost none of you objected before. Cenk going on to say, interestingly, this outrage comes as a continuation of corporate media rage over the withdrawal from a war. This outrage did not at all exist in the middle of those wars, but now, quote, reporters are pissed that the Pentagon makes mistakes. Please, Cenk is spot on here. It is great that the Pentagon has taken responsibility for something horrifying. OK, it's great that they're considering payments, which, of course, don't bring family back. But what else can you do now other than throw money at a problem? Right. But this isn't new, and there is a very cynical nature to this, and it's analogous to the media reaction to the withdrawal from Afghanistan. As I've said before, the withdrawal was 100% the right thing to do. Had Trump done it, it would have been extremely complicated. Similar things would have happened. Biden did it, got us out of a war. There has been more criticism from the media, corporate centrist media, and right-wing media, and even left-wing media to some degree, of Biden getting out. There's been more scrutiny of Biden getting out than there was of the 20 years that we spent there. And in the same way, it's not that this drone strike is irrelevant. It's horrifying. It's a tragedy. Should it be criminal, right? I mean, there's no mitigation about this particular drone strike, but it's being used by some in the media to further reinforce the idea that leaving Afghanistan was a mistake, when if they cared about drone strikes, they could have been covering the drone war for the last decade differently than they did, and they haven't been doing it. And so it's hard to take it all seriously. Good for Cenk for pointing this out. Good that they took responsibility on video in this way, but this is not a new thing. That doesn't change the seriousness of this particular drone strike, but we've got to understand this in context and understand the way in which it's useful to the people that are reporting on it in certain ways. Hey, this is really interesting. There's this channel called Newsmax. It's a crazy channel. And they have a host named Grant Stinkfield. And this guy went nuts when a veteran went on and issued, it's like the mildest, most milquetoast critique of Donald Trump. The whole point was all of this terrible stuff is happening in Afghanistan and it's Biden's fault. And the veteran simply tried to say, hey, it also like sort of would have been Trump's thing too. Like Trump had the same plan. It was like the mildest critique. And Grant Stinkfield melts down, throws the guy off and says, you are not going to criticize Trump on this channel. Whoa, pretty serious journalism, huh, guys? Let's take a look at this.
I can tell you this didn't happen under President Trump. And I know there's a lot of people on the left that want to try to blame President Trump. He wanted out of Afghanistan real bad. He was real frustrated not being able to get out, but he didn't pull out because he knew this would happen. In fact, we all did. I called it on this program. My 12-year-old son knew about it. And so I've got Americans there that are stuck. To me, that's a hostage situation. But Joe, I appreciate you working to get them out. I really do. Yeah. And I wish you all luck in the world.
With due respect,
thank you for...
With due respect, Grant, I mean, like, veterans, being one, right, and our friends are over there. Right. We followed this closely for multiple administrations, and we know the Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak, that they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out.
Joe, this is like the mildest critique.
Risk coordination problems.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Joe, cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show.
No.
That's not happening. Now, I appreciate the work that you're doing. God bless you for being a veteran. God bless you for trying to get Americans out. But don't come on this program and take the talking points of the left and blame President Trump. That's not helping anybody. The Biden administration screwed this up from the very start. You know it. I know it. The country knows it. And you call them not hostages. I don't know how you don't call them hostages. They're stuck in Afghanistan with a country overrun with terrorists.
This guy's out of his mind. I mean, he's completely disconnected from reality.
That are willing to kill them all. I'm mad about that, man. I really am.
How dare you question my narrative, veteran? But we support the troops. Yeah, God bless. God bless.
All right. We're going to slow it down.
Please.
Because we've got a real hero coming up. That man's a real hero, too. He served.
Before I get caught saying that veteran is not a hero, what happened to respecting the troops, right? I mean, that was,
both of you covered the Trump White House in real
video out of nowhere. We have learned that support the troops is support the mission of Republican presidents. They don't really care about troops. They don't really care about the opinion of individuals if it conflicts with their view, if it's not useful to their cause. And look at the mental gymnastics that are going on there. He's trying not to insult the troops. He even says, we're going to talk to a real hero next. Oh, but not that guy's not a hero, but we're not going to allow it on this show. No. God bless you, except you're an ignorant leftist sympathizer. But God bless you. I'm not saying you're not a hero, but the next guy's really a hero because he won't criticize Trump. How this is not a skit is unbelievable. I mean, this is a parody of the support the troops ideology. Support the troops. Yeah, but this guy, he criticized the dear leader. So all of a sudden, he is not a hero, but sort of, but not as much as the next guy that I'm going to bring on. Incredible stuff happening over on Newsmax. And it's worth seeing it because it is pushing the lines on hyper-nationalism well beyond Fox News. Very, very interesting. We'll have more coverage of what took place there on our Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at David Pakman Show. Find me on Instagram at david.pakman. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com and use the coupon code BETTER21 for a huge discount. Joinpakman.com. All right, I'm going to show you here a video that is like the perfect storm of the most perverted anti-vax insanity combined with the continued absurdity and hypocrisy of Fox hosts who work for a company that has a stricter vaccine policy than what Joe Biden outlined a couple of weeks ago, continuing to gin up their audiences by giving airtime to the wackiest, most unhinged anti-vaccine and anti-science voices. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about comedian Jim Breuer and Fox News host Tucker Carlson. You have to see this to believe it. As Huffington Post writes, I love this headline, Saturday Night Live's goat boy, meaning Jim Breuer, rants about the beast barks like a seal in a wild anti-vax rant. Now, there's two elements to this. First, it's the nonsense that Jim Breuer says. Second, it's Tucker nodding along and saying right and praising Jim Breuer for saying this stuff. And then in addition to that, the Fox audience who thinks, wow, Tucker's really standing up for what he believes is right. Fox News not only requires vaccination or testing otherwise. If you're not vaccinated, you've got to test every day at Fox. Remember, Biden said every week. You got to test every day at Fox, and you got to wear masks as well. That's stricter than so Tucker works there, but on air, he does the anti-vax apologia. So let's get right into it. This is crazy. Breuer seems out of his mind.
But the principle remains. If you can force people to get the vaccine, what can't you do?
Right.
That's a question that Jim Breuer appears to be thinking about. He's a comedian. He just announced he's not performing at any venue that requires patrons to be vaccinated.
So that's the gist of this, that Jim Breuer said, I'm canceling shows where the venue says everybody's got to be vaccinated. And now he's a hero.
Joins us tonight to explain why. Jim Breuer, thanks so much for coming on. Interesting that you did this. It caught our attention. Why? Tell us. I'll be quiet as you explain why you did this.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I got a lot of feedback from a couple venues that I was playing, and my fans were really upset. They said, you know, I'm not comfortable with getting a COVID shot, and now they're saying I can't come see you perform unless I do that. And I looked into it, and that's the last thing you should be doing is going, hey, you want to come see the, you know, like feeding the seal, the fish. Hey, you want to come see a concert?
That's funny, guys. He's barking like a seal. The point is better because he's barking.
Here, catch the fit. Why would you do that? Why would you? I don't want any of my fans forced to come laugh, and they got to get a shot in them.
Okay, so as much as Jim Breuer might love it for people to be forced to go to his show, no one's being forced to do anything. It's comedy is optional. Okay. If they don't want to get a shot, then they don't have to go to the show. They can go to a different show, or they can look at his clips online, or they can do it. Nobody's being forced to go to comedy shows at all. As much as Jim Breuer might love it if it was mandatory to go to his comedy, it's not.
And honestly, Tucker, I got to be honest with you. What really started my video was there's a new narrative, and the new narrative is the unvaccinated are the beast. Kill the beast. This program.
And notice Tucker says exactly. That's an idea Tucker's been pushing. He did it with some candidate on his daytime show where the guy said, I think the left wants to kill the unvaccinated. And Tucker's like, absolutely.
Goes on forever. Kill the beast. The beast is the unvaccinated. Kill them. And when our leader.
You can tell his comedy's really funny.
Put that out there and pointed the finger like we're the demons. I'm not vaccinated. I had COVID. You're not going to tell me about my body. I know my body. I know my morals. I know my faith. You don't come telling me and threaten me and everyone else as if we're the demons.
So at this point, we're not even on planet Earth. You know, you don't come threaten me as if I'm the demon. What he's talking about is Biden said, if you have over 100 employees, they should be vaccinated or test weekly. And then venues are legally able to require vaccines if they want to. Jim Breuer is at demons and faith and all these different things.
2 close friends right now, fully vaccinated, and they got COVID.
Yeah.
And they're both sick. So this is not about safety, because if it was, you'd, just like you said and I said in my video, eat more fruit, take care of your body.
Now, remember, there is no evidence that eating fruit prevents COVID. I guess they're alluding to if you're generally healthier, overall, your risk of death is lower from all causes. But that's not specific to COVID.
Go to the gym. I've been saying that forever. You would have thought I called people savages for doing that. But this is where we're at as society. And the greatest thing, I have to be honest with you.
Please.
I'm so blessed because 95% of people, I was just saying it to be honest, Tucker, one message after the other was, thank you. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you. I feel terrible. I'm a fireman and they want me to get vaccinated. I don't want to get vaccinated. My child, I know someone, my hand to God.
So is it obviously a lie because he said hand to God? I don't know.
And it was the last vaccine push. Their child, 5 years old, vaccinated, when paralyzed.
Okay. Who's vaccinating 5-year-olds? Am I missing something? Has the vaccine been approved for 5-year-olds? Who's this 5-year-old that got a vaccine? Were they part of a trial?
From the neck down, and I do a benefit for him every year.
Oh, I guess this. This is more. So he's saying some other vaccine paralyzed a kid. Is that the claim now?
So when I hear people going, "Oh, you don't know that," no, you don't.
Okay, so a bizarre rant, barking like a seal in opposition to vaccination. There is Jim Breuer, and that's pretty scary because he's an entertainer. And all sorts of people just see what he says and they love it. They love it and they just accept it. So that was going on, and Tucker Carlson absolutely loving it and praising it. Okay, if you want to get a sense of how long this election fraud stuff is going to be going on, Donald Trump just sent a letter to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, demanding that he be declared the winner of Georgia. Trump demanding that Trump be declared the winner of Georgia. Don't check your calendar. This isn't a repeat. It really is mid-September of 2021. It's not November of 2020. It's not December of 2020. It's almost October of 2021. And Donald Trump is demanding that he be given the state of Georgia in the November of 2020 election. Donald Trump sent this letter on Friday. I fully expected when I saw this headline, I thought this must be from months ago. It must have just resurfaced. Like, it can't be from now. But indeed it is. The letter is dated September 17, 2021. The letter says, "Dear Secretary Raffensperger, large-scale voter fraud, random capitalization, I still don't understand it. His followers do it too. Large-scale voter fraud continues to be reported in Georgia. Enclosed is a report of 43,000 absentee ballot votes counted." Now, the counted is capitalized, guys. The counting is so important that he's put a capital C on it in the middle of a sentence. Absentee ballot votes counted in DeKalb County that violated the chain of custody rules, making them invalid. I would respectfully request that your department check this, and if true, along with many other claims of voter fraud and voter irregularities, start the process of decertifying the election or whatever the correct legal remedy is, and announce the true winner. He's saying, announce me as the winner of Georgia. It's October. As stated to you previously, the number of false and or irregular votes is far greater than needed to change the Georgia election result. People do not understand why you and Governor Brian Kemp adamantly refuse to acknowledge the now proven facts and fight so hard that the election truth not be told. You and Governor Kemp are doing a tremendous disservice to the great state, capitalized, of Georgia, and to our capital and nation, which is systematically being destroyed by an illegitimate president and his administration. The truth must be allowed to come out. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Their argument is that because some forms were dated a few hours late, I'm interpreting what is being said here, okay? Some forms were dated a few hours late. They want every result from all of those ballot boxes thrown out and not counted. They want to disenfranchise tens of thousands of voters because of some messed up paperwork with some of these ballots. Now, the law that they cite is this emergency declaration, which has rules for ballot drop boxes. It doesn't say if any rule is violated, you throw all the ballots in the box into the trash. It doesn't actually say that. It doesn't say throw the votes out and don't count them. So all of this is being signal boosted by articles being written that say, because it appears that maybe some ballots had were a few hours late in being certified, you need to just throw out all the ballots from those ballot boxes. There's nothing in the law that suggests that that should be happening. So at this point, is this a mental health issue? Is this trolling? Is it grifting? This letter was released just before the Saturday rally in support of the Trump rioters. Maybe it was an indirect way to try to rile people up. Remember, Donald Trump, remember when he just asked for 11,000 votes to be found for him?
I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
This guy seems willing to do anything. But again, the issue is the burden of proof. He says he has the evidence, but he wants Brad Raffensperger to prove that his allegations are true. What this may actually be is an attempt to preempt what increasingly seems like is going to be an investigation into Trump's attempts to overturn the Georgia results. This is an article from Friday, the same day as this letter came out. Georgia criminal probe into Trump's attempts to overturn 2020 election quietly moves forward. So this may be Trump trying to argue, look, I wasn't trying to break the law when I asked for 11,000 votes. What I meant is what I said in this letter, which is you should investigate this and you should investigate that. It's kind of like that Weasley mafioso type speak that we've become accustomed to from Donald Trump, but a delusional letter. I was convinced this letter must be 6 months old. No, it's from Friday, and we will continue to follow it. If you value what we do at the David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show, as well as special discounts on merch, including hats, hoodies, mugs, and t-shirts. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. All right, let's do almost like a history lesson type segment here. I have an example for you today of something that the modern Republican Party is now regularly engaging in that is indistinguishable from standard historical fascist propaganda. It checks all the boxes. Today, we're going to be comparing it specifically to Italian fascist propaganda during and in the pre-Mussolini era. It'll all make sense in a moment. Come along for the ride. We will start with radical pro-Trump Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's new political advertisement. Apparently, she's running in 2022. We've been wondering how many of these Trumpists will run in 2022. If they run, how many of them are going to win? It's going to be a big piece of influencing whether or not Donald Trump runs in 2024. Marjorie Taylor Greene in her new ad says, I guess, if you reelect her, she's going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda. And then in the video, she actually blows up a car, a Prius, with socialism on it, with a 50 cal rifle that she is also auctioning off for people who contribute to her campaign. Like every aspect of this is just a dystopian fascist propaganda piece. Let's take a look at it, and then we are going to discuss. Okay, so here's the ad.
Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda. Go to the website below and sign up to win my 50 caliber.
Yeah. So the website she refers to is greengun.com. This is straight up fascist propaganda, and it's potentially an incitement to violence because she's normalizing shooting socialist Priuses, right? I mean, it's not even an analogy. She's shooting a socialist Prius in the car. So we have a ton of examples of fascist propaganda. This is just another example. When you look for examples of the propaganda of fascist Italy leading up to and during the Mussolini era, it's this type of stuff. I'm going to tell you the themes of this is now these are the themes of Italian fascist propaganda, very well known historically. And look at how much it applies to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Number one, personality cults around individuals. This is not Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about policy. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene building a cult of personality around her as a socialist gun toter who blows up socialist Priuses, right? That's what it is. Action over talk as a form of politics was a theme of Italian fascist propaganda. Marjorie Taylor Greene shooting a gun at a socialist car. She's not talking about issues. She's not talking about solving problems like an adult. She's using action over talk as the default of politics. Okay, so now this one, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is a woman, we have to think a little bit differently about this one. But for Mussolini and Italian fascism, fertility and the strength of men was a big thing. This is kind of like a female version of it, although there's not as direct of an analogy of Marjorie Taylor Greene appearing to be more likely to bear children on the basis of shooting guns. But there's also a bit of a masculinization of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So maybe it does actually apply. That's another one. Attacking foreign culture. In Italy, it was Americanism that was attacked. French and Russian literature were attacked, etc. In this case, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, It's the pseudo foreign culture of American socialists. They're not foreigners, but the idea is they aren't like us. They're not really Americans in the mold that we believe Americans should exist. So very similar. And then, of course, Italian fascist propaganda was anti-democratic and it was anti-small L liberalism. Shooting your political opponents is not democratic. This is, again, about firearms as solutions. The use of slogans to cover the violence of what you propose. OK, that was a common thing. At the 8-second mark in this video, which I will pull up for you, it says, in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda. And notice she blows up a Toyota Prius, a sort of emblem of what they don't like. Prius, you know, one of the first hybrid vehicles now available as a plug-in car. Even that detail is relevant to the fascistic nature of the propaganda. It's a fight for fossil fuels. No silly hybrids or electric cars. Now, that's the analysis with fascist propaganda from Italy. Just, you know, you could do it with something else altogether, but we've just picked that. And our friend and fellow Argentinian Federico Finkelstein, who is an expert on fascism, actually tweeted in response to this video, Fascist Propaganda 101. We have to be calling this for what it is. Lots of politicians blowing things up Taliban style to make political points about how bad liberals are and how the left has to be punished. And meanwhile, if you propose like a child tax credit, that's called socialist by these very same people. They're disseminating actual fascistic propaganda. But if you want like healthcare for people or a child tax credit or enhanced unemployment, then you are called a socialist. It's really dangerous stuff. And unfortunately, if it's not sort of rooted out, it's going to increasingly become more and more common that we see it. Why? Because they've abandoned policy altogether. Notice that there's no policy there. It's just, we're going to blow away the socialists and block Nancy. How does she pronounce it? Pelosi, etc. They're going to keep doing this type of stuff unless somebody or something stops them, or unless it loses them elections, because they've given up on policy years ago. We've talked about that before. Let's go now from Marjorie Taylor Greene to another radical, ignorant Trumpist. I am talking about constitutional scholar Madison Cawthorn. Just kidding. He's not a constitutional scholar. He's actually a radical authoritarian pro-Trump congressman who said it is against the law for airlines to require vaccines for travel. Now, they're not doing that yet, but I hope that they do. In fact, we know from public opinion polls that requiring vaccines to get on an airplane to fly between U.S. states would be extremely effective in getting the anti-vaxxers to go and get a vaccination. And we're going to play a clip in which Madison Cawthorn actually says, you have a constitutionally protected right to free, unrestricted travel within the United States. And it's one of those examples where a little bit of knowledge can become a very dangerous thing when you misunderstand it. Let's listen to Madison Cawthorn.
We should be encouraging them to reject this. This is a medical apartheid, plain and simple. There's over 100 million Americans who are not vaccinated. I think it's even more than that. And if they want to start shutting down air travel for these people to get around the country, I think that's actually a constitutional violation, because you actually have a constitutionally protected right to free, unrestricted travel within the United States of America. And I genuinely believe that what's going on right now is that all that's going to happen if United Airlines and American Airlines and Delta even, if they decide to start requiring vaccine mandates, let me tell you, I'm very confident there will be another air carrier that will come to the field, and patriots like myself and you will give them all of our business.
Now, that last part is fine. If airlines like United, American, and Delta say we're going to require vaccines, it's completely plausible that someone else will come forward and say we do not require vaccines. Now, if airlines are mandated to require vaccines by the federal authority of the Department of Transportation, then that won't happen. But if it's a decision made by individual airlines, Madison may well be right. Some anti-vax airline might come forward, and the anti-vax people like Madison or whoever, Grant Stinkfield, they can go and fly that. But here's where a little bit of knowledge gets people in trouble. Madison Cawthorn repeats, you have a constitutionally protected right to free, unrestricted travel within the United States. Therefore, an airline requiring a vaccine would be unconstitutional. This is a really good teachable moment. You would hope that members of Congress would know this, but they don't. First of all, what we're talking about here is the right to travel domestically under Constitution and the federal law. Now, it's important to understand that it's never been substantially questioned or limited judicially. That's absolutely true. But in 1941, the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional for California to just restrict the migration of so-called Okies, and that there is a right of free movement as a right of national citizenship, and that has to be that has been upheld under the Commerce Clause. But there are exceptions. There are exceptions. In a 1985 case, the Supreme Court found that the Privileges and Immunities Clause prohibits discrimination against a non-resident from one state, from another state in one state, except where, number one, there is a substantial reason for a different treatment. Non-vaccinated status could be such a reason. And number two, when the discrimination practiced against non-residents bears a substantial relationship to the state's objective. If a state as an objective has reduced COVID spread, you could see a limitation on the ability to freely travel between states. But more importantly, both the president and the Department of HHS and governors have powers when there's a public health emergency that can supersede the right to travel. But throw all of that stuff away. Like, forget about all of that, because there's a bigger issue. Just because you can legally move between states, that doesn't mean airlines have to allow you on their flights and allow you to ignore their requirements. What I mean by that is free travel when it's not limited by emergencies. Okay, let's imagine there's no limitation on travel by any governor. No, there's free travel. That generally means if you can get yourself to a border of another state, you can go into that state. You can drive in, you can walk in, whatever. It doesn't mean that if there's a specific airline and a specific flight that requires vaccines, they have to let you on if you're not vaccinated. Imagine saying there's free travel between states. I don't have to be subjected to TSA security because the Constitution grants me free travel between states. Come on, guys, get in a car and drive over there. But that can't be used to say you get to skip security. And along the same lines, as long as vaccine requirements are generally legal for airlines to put in place, which as far as we know right now, they are, it is just as legal for an airline as a policy to say we require proof of vaccination for passengers or we require proof of vaccination for employees or both. They really don't get it, but they come up with stuff that to lower information news consumers sounds good. Hey, I do have a right to free travel between states by the Constitution. Sure, get in a car and drive over there. And assuming the road's not closed and assuming if it's a toll road that you pay the toll, right? All of these things. If you can get yourself to the border, you can go in. That doesn't mean you get to go to an airline and say, I'm not abiding by any of your rules. I'm not wearing my seatbelt. I'm going to be standing during takeoff. I don't want to go through security and I don't want to be vaccinated. It's just not the way it works. And unfortunately, Madison Cawthorn continues to convince people with this stuff. He's admitted he's not running a policy office. He's running a PR and communications office. And this stuff gets millions and millions of views and his followers love it. It's all BS. It's all wrong. Conveys a complete misunderstanding of what it means to have free travel between states. But his followers absolutely love it. We have a voicemail number. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here's a call I got about PragerU videos being shown in school. Listen to this.
Hi, David. I'm a middle school social studies teacher, and I wanted to share with you something that happened at my school this week. So one of my colleagues, also social studies teacher, got called into a meeting with the principal. And afterwards, he had told us the story. Apparently, a parent voiced a concern about something in his lesson, and it turned out that he had shown the class a video from PragerU. Mm-hmm. And one of the students noticed this source as something to be wary of and kind of raised that concern with the parent who contacted the school. I just wanted to kind of share that with you and say, you know, I thought it was kind of I was proud that there were students out there that were, you know, being considerate and critical of the sources that they're encountering.
Absolutely. Whatever kid did that has upper management written all over him or her. No, I mean, listen, Prager in social studies, that is not good. That is really, really not good. And if I had a kid in school right now, I would be, first of all, I would be losing my mind if they came home and said, sir, my kids would call me sir. If they said, sir, we were shown PragerU videos, but I would be wanting to go out of my way to prepare them and say, listen, you might be shown videos in school. Little Rivka or little Mordechai, you might be shown videos in school. Just because your teacher chooses the video doesn't mean you can believe everything in the video. You always have to think for yourself. And if you ever have a question, you come to me, son or daughter, whatever. Anyway, the point is, I'm joking about how I would say it, but I would go out of my way to prepare my kids for the fact that you may be shown things that are not representing the world as it is. And certainly PragerU videos in social studies class would be very, very high on that list, but good on that kid for doing it. We have a great bonus show for you today. Poverty fell in 2020. Why? Stimulus checks and enhanced unemployment. Very simple. We will talk about Walmart and Ford teaming up on self-driving deliveries. And Beto O'Rourke is looking like he's going to run for governor against Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I love this, and it will give us another great race, a great race for the coming election cycle. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpacman.com. Get yourself instant access. I will see you then. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. CuriosityStream is the world's only streaming service dedicated to documentaries, featuring tons of amazing titles you won't find on any other streaming platforms. Get CuriosityStream for 25% off, which is just $15 a year, by clicking the link right underneath this video.